call our regular Board of Education meeting to order at this time. This evening we have two students from Mrs. Westerhoff's class. We have Jenna Torsen and Tanner Bastian. If they would like to come up front here, guys. They are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're ready when you are.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Thank you. Okay, next we have our roll call. Bridget. Here. Jeff.
Here.
Andy.
Here.
Dan.
Here.
Tracy. Here. Rob.
Here.
And I am here. Next is motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
So moved. Or.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have our True Blue moment for November. And this month we are recognizing and acknowledging those that helped us pass our bond a couple of weeks ago.
First of all, we'd like to start by thanking all the voters who got out and voted. It just made a world of difference. We can't begin to thank everyone enough for what this will do for our children's future and for our community here in Richmond to get our buildings cared for and transportation and technology in place that will be necessary for our children's future. And we appreciate the foresight that all the voters had in doing that. And for everyone that worked on it. I know there were many, many people who talked to their neighbors. People worked on it directly and indirectly, and it's just too long a list to begin to name everyone without reading someone out. I know the teachers sent out postcards to people, and people contacted people that they knew, their families that didn't go a vote last time. I just appreciate everything that everyone has done to make this possible.
And it truly was a true blue moment for our community to be able to get this passed. And on behalf of the board, we want to thank Dr. Olson, her staff, especially Terry, sitting there for all the extra things, no matter what came up. Who got things done for us but Terry? Who could we call at the last minute to get something done for us? Terry. So we thank her. We thank our administration, those of you who posted things on your principal pages, the information that you had staff members put out to the public. We appreciate that. People were reading those things and we're talking about it. And Dr. Olson's right, our teachers union sent out notices to parents about voting. Our teachers, secretaries, anybody who was an employee who talked about it and talked it up and got people out to vote. More people voted than did the last time, and that shows that the extra work we did between May and November paid off. I'd like to thank my two members of my bond committee, Dan Hill and Rob Reindell, for putting up with me these last few months of many texts and getting signs out, talking to people, the rest of the board who made phone calls and letters and whatever else that you did. It is truly a true blue moment and something to be very proud of, no matter what you do here at Richmond Schools and those that live in our community. And we do thank you, and we have a daunting task ahead of us. The board is ready, our administration and our staff is ready, and we will show the community that by voting yes was the right vote, and we are going to be very successful in implementing everything that we have with our bond. So thank you again. Okay. Would anybody else like to say anything? No? All right. Next, Public comments. It's the portion of our meeting where a member of the public would like to address the board. You can come up to the podium and do so. We just ask if you have something that we can answer, that you leave your name and telephone number, and we will get back with you. Is there anyone in our audience that would like to say anything? Thank you. No. Okay. Next, items of interest from members of the board. Do any board members have anything that they would like to share?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to the play Friday, Legally Blonde, and I want to tell you how awesome it was. The talent the group of the kids put on, the show was just unbelievable. I really walked away impressed, and I'm glad I went. Took a little tugging to get me there, and I was glad I got tugged to go there, because it was good.
Very good.
I have something to say too. I recently attended the elementary conferences, and they were amazing. Teachers were very friendly, welcoming. The building was put together. It was a really nice experience and a great place to be. It was really impressive. So thank you, teachers and Mr. Benoit.
Anyone else? I saw when I was perusing the website on the calendar, just for board members, the band and choir holiday concerts are coming up. The band concert, the 10th and the 11th at 7:30, and then the choir concert is the following week, the 17th and 18th at 7:30 in the auditorium. And hopefully everybody saw the email in the weekly report for Mrs. Michon about graduation, the date for graduation and the time to put in our calendars. And thank you, Mrs. Michon, for that. Early notice is always a wonderful thing. Anything else? No? Okay. Next item are our committee reports. We'll start with budget and finance. Bridget?
Okay, we went over our monthly claims and accounts. Everything looks good and ready for approval. We had a discussion about the student count information and how it's impacted our budget over this year. And the difference between the budget and actual, what we budgeted for and to what we have, is a difference of 49.68 students, which left us in a deficit of $140,783.05. So we're kind of just looking at ways to, not necessarily the where kids are going, but why kids are leaving, or where, how we can get them back and draw them back into Richmond and show them, this is the place where they need to be. We began discussion on the bond, and Linda's taking us through the process because it's going to be a big undertaking, and she's walking us through that. We just slightly discussed that. And then we began to engage in our discussion of the 2014-2015 budget. Vicki did a nice job gathering a huge amount of paperwork that we will all be going through and looking over where we're currently spending our money, and we're going to be going through that probably for the next couple of meetings, and budgeting is going through a lot of paperwork. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Next, our Facilities and Safety Committee met. Dan?
We met, we kind of had a follow-up to the meeting we had with the city council regarding the easements for the water main. Dr. Olson had a good concern about maybe putting a limit on the easement, to have it be revisited in, say, 5 years or 10 years, in case the work hasn't been completed by then. Maybe if something changes on the school campus, that the easement needs to be changed. So John Moore, the city manager, and Paul Fidel, the DPW director, was there, and I believe John and Dr. Olson are going to get together and maybe work on a little different language, because there might have to be 3 separate easements, because there is existing water main over at the Lee School, and also up here at the high school there's existing water main that's already there. So there might be 2 separate easements for that, and then the one that they want to do that connects the service. So we're kind of waiting to see what they come up with as far as the documents, and we're going to go from there. So, probably gonna end up putting a limit on the amount of years, right?
I think that's
So-
kind of weird.
Just so it would have to be revisited by the parties.
If we go ahead and approve it, it's not something the city's gonna get done this year, next year. You know, they have to put it in their 5-year, 10-year type of plan, so.
You couldn't even tell us in 20 years
Right.
necessarily, so.
Then a lot could change around here in 20 years as far as buildings and stuff like that. The chances of it happening probably aren't that good of, you know, being that it's running right next to the roadway, but you never know. So,
And once Dr. Olson and John Moore are done doing what they need to do, we'll come back to the committee and we'll look at it, and then a presentation will be made to the full board on the whole, the easement, the whole thing, so. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Next, our student board representative report. Colleen could not be here tonight, so she sent me her report, and I told her I would read it for her. Lee School, Lee Elementary K kids honored our veterans by having a star-making program. Students decorated cutout stars with the veteran's name on the star. They are posted on the walls as you enter the school. Mr. Noit would like to thank Mrs. Hall, Mrs. Dorsey, and the members of K Kids for this wonderful way to honor our veterans. There was a great deal of excitement in the air during parent-teacher conferences as a result of passing the bond. Many parents voiced their pleasure with the success. They are very interested in seeing how the process unfolds. The after-school reading program started today. There are over 45 students involved in the program. The program will run through December 13th. The annual Christmas concert at Lee is scheduled for December 3rd at the Lee Elementary cafeteria. The third grade performance is at 6:30 with the fourth grade at 7:30. In the middle school, Mrs. Campo's video production class has been broadcasting the Richmond Middle School news and announcements. Thank you to Mr. Osachuk for putting together another wonderful tribute for our veterans at our annual Veterans Ceremony. Students and staff truly enjoy this event, and it is always great to see everyone taking some time to recognize and honor our veterans. The Richmond Middle School Builders Club attended Meadow Lodge for Halloween and had a really nice time. Web leaders conducted a web luncheon with the fifth graders. The first Junior Blue Devil Advocate newspaper has been given out to students, and a great job was done by the students and Mrs. Bartel. At the high school, this past weekend was the high school's production of Legally Blonde. A big thank you goes out to all the people that made the production happen, which ended up being very successful. Next month, the band concert will be on the 10th and 11th at 7:30, and the choir concert on the 17th and 18th at 7:30. The shoe drive is still going on in the media center for anyone that wants to donate. All during this holiday season, the National Honor Society will be helping with bell ringing in the community. Key Club is also helping with various charities, including Kids Against Hunger, where students help bundle care packages to go overseas. That's it. Any questions? Hopefully not, because I won't be able to answer them because I'm not Colleen, but good? Okay, next, approval of consent agenda items. Did you change the? Okay. A motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda items, which includes claims and accounts.
So moved.
Support?
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is our bond resolution. Dr. Olson?
I had a question today, and so I had given Craig a call and found out that he was planning to be at our meeting tonight. So with us tonight, we have Craig Taylor from Fifth Third, and they will be the underwriter for the bond. And so since he was going to be here, I asked him if he would explain to you how the negotiated sale works. I thought you might find it informative. You can do a negotiated or a bid sale, and for our side, the bond is probably advantageous for us to do a negotiated sale. So, if you kind of explain it, and maybe you'll have some questions.
I think did you receive a copy of the timeline? Linda, do you?
Yes, at your place tonight, I shared with you a copy of the timeline for the sale. I got it on Friday, and I didn't email it to you because to a large extent, a lot of this happens in the background as far as the board is concerned. With our financial advisor, Starter Barch, Fifth Third, Bev Bonnie, Truman Law Firm, they're working in coordination together to pull together the information and make recommendations as far as what they think would be our greatest value and that is the lowest interest rate. And so those parties are on the second page. So I thought that you might find it most helpful if we just sort of talked about it tonight and go from there, so.
Well, first off, congratulations. It's always great to see a community come in supporting your school district. School board member too, so I have to thank you for putting me in front of the Neola policy update. And I just went through mine last week. I heard one of you mention something about foreheads hitting the table earlier tonight, so I'm familiar with that. So yes, I am Craig Kale with Fifth Third Securities. I'm out of East Lansing, and we work with school districts all over the state of Michigan on financing. We sell your bonds. And so Linda asked me to just talk to you a little bit about the concept of the negotiated sale, so that you can understand a little bit of what we're trying to accomplish with your bond sale. But let's back up a little bit, because your financial advisor, Stouter Barge, basically sets the parameters for the sale of your bonds. They are your representative in the financial transaction you're proposing to enter into. And they provide the parameters to your bond counsel, Beverly Bonding at Truman Law Firm. So the resolution that you have in your board packet tonight has been drafted by the Truman Law Firm, and essentially it sets forth the parameters of the sale. So there are a few elements in there that are kind of key for us. First off, you've gone through the process of getting your bonds qualified for the Michigan School Bond Loan Fund. Why is that important? Primarily because you get the state of Michigan backing, which means your bonds have the state of Michigan's credit rating. The state of Michigan's credit rating is better than most all school districts in the state of Michigan. There's a couple that are better than the state, but you're talking about Birmingham, the Bloomfield Hills type school districts. Most of the districts fall into the category where I fully expect Richmond would fall, is in what we would refer to as kind of the single A rating. So the state's AA2 rating provides a backup for investors, which typically lets them accept a lower interest rate. So there's a benefit to the taxpayers that they're going to pay less interest over the life of the bonds. Secondly, in their analysis, Stouter Barge has said they would like us to move quickly before the end of this year to sell a first series of your bonds. And your resolution gives you the authority to issue in one or more series. What we're trying to accomplish with this is we are trying to take advantage of what are termed bank qualified interest rates. What that means is a bank gets essentially a tax preference for purchasing your bonds. So financial institutions love these bonds. The key is you can only issue up to $10 million a year in these types of securities. So if you've taken out a state aid note, for example, that counts against your $10 million threshold. So when we look at these numbers, we've determined, and Stouter Barge has given us parameters that say we can probably issue somewhere in just the outside $8.1 million of the total 12.9 that's been approved. So the timeline you have here is for that $8.1 million sale. And the goal here is to negotiate the sale with investors. What does that mean? Because it sounds vague. Essentially what you do is you select your underwriter. That would be Fifth Third Securities. And what we do is we help put together with your bond counsel and with your financial advisor a document that was very similar to this. You would have seen this on your last financing we did for you in 2008. It's called a preliminary official statement. And this is basically similar to a stock prospectus. We assembled this, and it has all, on the front portion, it has all the legal language that demonstrates your ability to issue the bonds. But on the back, it has all the demographic information. This is what we give the investors that tells the story of Richmond Community Schools. We prepare that on your behalf. We circulate it. We use it to market your bonds to potential investors. And if you look at that timeline briefly, the first page of what Dr. Olson gave you, if you look down in the middle of the page, you'll see pricing of the bonds on December 10th. Leading up to that, we're going to market your bonds, and on that day, we're going to put indicative interest rates out into the market. We're going to seek out investors interested in purchasing the district's bonds. Ultimately, if we hit the market at the right time, the goal is to have, let's say, $24, $25, $30 million worth of orders for your bonds, because then we can start adjusting interest rates. That's what you can do through the process of a negotiated sale, with the intention of lowering those rates down to the bare minimum, the lowest level that the investors will accept on that day. The result is the interest is lower for the taxpayers of the district. So that's, in a nutshell, keep it real high level for it, but that's in a nutshell the concept of a negotiated sale. We leverage our relationships with the investors to sell your bonds at the lowest rates available in the market. We work in tandem on the day of pricing with your financial advisor so that they're telling you as the issuer that our rates are on par and on level with the investing market that day. There's a lot that does go on behind the scenes with this timeline, but the key dates on here, tonight, you've adopted your resolution, or you will adopt your resolution. Thursday, we're going to have a call where we're going to actually have Linda and Vicki on the phone. We're going to put this document together in pretty much final form and have that ready to circulate to investors. You will get a rating from, we expect, Moody's rating agency. There are basically two rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. You have historically used Moody's, so typically Standard & Poor's recommends staying with that firm. We don't have a track record with Standard & Poor's, so there's really no need to change at this point. We'll also seek bids to insure your bonds and try to bring them up to a higher rating, but typically there isn't enough benefit to do that. So you pay more in the premium than you would save in interest. It's not an economic benefit for you as the issuer. We won't do it, but we still take the bids because we want to know. We'll price your bonds on December 12th, and then there's some little bit of scramble, and I see Mr. Hill, your secretary, we're going to need to see you the day after pricing because we're going to need your autograph on some documents. Because we're moving at a rapid rate to get this closed by the end of the year, we need to get some documents wrapped up and submitted to the Department of Treasury very quickly. They require 10 business days for their final approval, and we can't close on your financing without their approval. So we'll get some stuff to you from the Troon Law Firm the day after pricing. And then going down, you're going to have one more board meeting where you talk about this on December 16th. And that's where Troon Law Firm will prepare what's called a ratification resolution. Essentially, the resolution you have in front of you is called a delegating resolution, and it grants Dr. Olson a lot of the authority to act on your behalf. You are allowing her to act in that manner. But the ratification resolution gives you the opportunity to, as Troon likes to describe it, do any little cleanup of details that may change from this point to the point where we're bringing that final resolution to you. It's rare that you have anything that occurs, quite frankly. But usually there are some details that may change that are done with the approval of your counsel and your financial advisor as well. And then finally, we would be looking to close your bonds for this series on December 30th. And again, that's the magic date. We have to close on these to allow you to issue these as bank qualified bonds. A few other things to note. I was taking a look at your financials today, and I have to tell you, the financials look good. I'm an old accountant, I'm an old auditor, and so sometimes these things excite me. It's an affliction. But it's good to see a school district that has 10% fund equity, because that's not something you see much any longer. So my hat's off to you for being able to hold on to that number and do a good job of managing your budgets and maintain fund equity at about that level. Because the rating agencies put you under so much more scrutiny than even back in 2008. You know, we were already feeling the effects of the financial meltdown then, but because of the pressure they're under to do a good job looking at you as issuers, they put you under the microscope now. So to have this kind of management in place should bode well for you when you have that rating call in a week or so. So kudos to you for that. So again, I don't want to take up too much time because you want to get to the exciting policy stuff. But if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we've got in front of us we have the resolution. It's about, that resolution itself is 6 pages, and normally we read it orally. Don't you want to do that? Differently? I think it's necessary to read the text. Well, what does the board usually do? Read a resolution in its entirety. This one is 6 pages. But I don't think it's necessary to read. You don't think so? Then, all right, then I would need a motion.
I need a motion to accept the resolution as presented. Is that be sufficient?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that's what I would be looking for.
Okay, I'll make the motion to accept the board resolution as presented in our board package.
Support?
Okay. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Rob?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Mandy?
Aye.
Bridget?
Aye.
Tracy? Aye. And I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, next, second reading of our Neola updates. Okay, the last time I mentioned to you that the wellness committee had been appointed and we're planning to meet that next week and would come back with a recommendation to narrow down the wellness policy a little bit based on Paul Pelkey's observation that we needed to be able to document every item that we included in it. So we wanted to approach it just a little bit more carefully than what we had before. We can handle this whole packet in one of 2 ways. We can review the new information that I sent out to you after the wellness committee met, and or we can review everything that we reviewed last time in a similar way, or that portion we could do by any discussion that anyone wants to have within the section. You know, what the pleasure of the board. Well, why don't we take what we did the last time that we went through? Does anybody have anything? I do have one thing I'd like to discuss with the board. Okay. On the item that has to do with the service animals, it's 8390 in your packet. It's a new policy. And while for the most part, the focus is on service animals, making sure that they're vaccinated and if there are, you know, just a lot of different details about those particular animals. It also includes any animals on district property.
And so, if we adopt the policy as it currently is, and in talking with Paul tells me that's probably a good idea, I think we would need to put signage out, because we regularly have people walking their dogs on campus. And I would try to put an article in the newspaper, trying to explain why we have this policy. But I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with that. You know, we have people who walk their dogs on leashes. We have people who are out with their dogs and not on leashes. Some are little dogs, some are big dogs. We have people who pick up the droppings. We have people who don't.
Yeah, I think in some cases it's almost treated as a dog park.
And, you know, is that really what we want for our campus? I have been told that we have dogs that attend ball games. That can be a problem. And he shared with me, you know, some issues that have come up in other districts where there are less restricted. So I just want to make sure that we have some discussion here, because I'm sure something will get some pushback until people get accustomed to it and understand the reasons for it. But it seems like going through all of this for service animals, making sure they have the necessary shots and parameters for those. And then you let people just bring the dogs and kind of run, kind of seems like two ends of it sometimes.
So it starts, it says, you know, animal includes every vertebrate other than a human. So basically, if we did this, and there's a part in here where it talks about being able to bring an animal in if it was something specific to support the curriculum. Otherwise, you're saying,
And it has to be approved by the principal.
right. So it's just a matter of, if we're going to do this, this includes all animals, and we would have to enforce the fact to not have people walking their dogs and bringing their pets to events. That's basically what we're saying, right?
Right.
And how is that going to be enforced on a Sunday afternoon?
Well, you know, that is a problem. But then if you have signage up, I think we would have to put signs up. Because you have to alert people that there is this rule. And then if it created a problem, you've got something to ask them to leave. I don't think we're gonna hire somebody to patrol it 100% of the time, but we're going to educate people that can't just bring them in. Or if they were at a game or something like that, you could ask them, you need the dog, if they just ask them not to still. And they still do, but they don't as much as they when we didn't have that rule.
I mean, the signs, what you're saying, the signs also are kind of passing the responsibility on the dog owner, saying, you know, you can't say we didn't tell you.
Right.
So,
I mean, it's not gonna be my favorite job, I know that.
Right. It's part of the policy for the soccer out there at the Leaf School too. You know, I coach that. They don't allow dogs at the games there, and it's been an issue before. But, you know, we are a small community, and most people, their dogs are members of their family, so even though they're on a leash, they're not supposed to be there. Like you said, we're gonna have pushback on it, but
Every day we have people walking their dogs, and I think they say no, but on the other hand, when we have to follow, so you can't very well say yes. What's the thought?
I myself hate to do it, but in today's day and age, you kind of have to. Is my feeling on it. Some of the people are too happy, I guess. I'm not a big fan of more rules and restrictions, but you know, if it was my kid that got his arm or leg gnawed on, I would be real happy.
I think the makeup of how our campus is situated, people do not understand the entire school property. They think it is a part of the city zone, so walking zone, so the way they walk, the way they go, like I said, I don't think they realize that there's a difference in some ways. You know what I mean? Just because the street that sort of is a street, but it's really a driveway, I mean, all these other things. I think
Aren't there
that-
leash laws in the city of Richmond too? Only leash laws about for dogs and picking up and dropping and all that good stuff. I think there is, but I know there isn't EV Park, but I don't think no one follows it, no one enforces it either.
Well, like, I think, you know, it's like I said, I think the rules are there in case something does come up. You know, there's something in place. How strictly it's enforced.
Well, then the question is, number one, do we want to have this policy? And if we do want to have it, then that means we're gonna have it all the way. Whether it's service animals, regular animals, anything, that's the question, right? Unless you wanna have an exception. It doesn't make sense to have an exception for. Who knows? Keep it? Dan, let's keep it. Keep it.
Just for protection of, you know, if there's a sign there, then they need to make their choice, and it goes back on them. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I hate to regulate pets, but it is school property, and we need to protect, the children come first with their protection.
Right. Say it again?
What does it say about service animals?
Oh, it defines what a service animal is.
They're allowed with proper
They're-
documentation.
Yeah, they're allowed, and it gives all the reasons
Okay.
on why it's allowed.
It's a lengthy policy.
Yeah, it talks about IEPs, you know, all that kind of stuff, and talks about navigation and physical disabilities of students, all of that. Just seeking permission, the service animal has to ride on a bus with a student, all of that. It gives big details on allowing service animals. And also for employees, not just students.
And we've never had another policy unless
I don't believe
This
it.
is a brand new policy.
I would say no, yeah. So we're gonna leave it in? Okay. I don't hear any big no's, so all right. Yeah. Something else?
That was my biggest concern.
Okay.
So when are signs gonna go up? When is that?
Well,
Process.
first of all, they have to be selected and ordered. So, if I never ordered adopted this, then I'll proceed tomorrow.
Okay, so then, is there any other of the policy that we looked at last month that anybody had any questions from last time, or any issues with, or additions that they want to say about everything we went over last month? No one? Okay. All right, so now we can go on to the wellness.
Okay, I emailed you out the recommendation of the wellness committee. And I don't know if you want me to do this. You know, we took out a few items that primarily had to do with the documentation was just be so complex to put together. And it wasn't maybe something we were doing now, that we just thought it's better to do something well and not try to get it too complicated. So we took out, we already were doing 1 and 2 on page 1. Took out the last one.
Rob, you went to this meeting, didn't
Yes,
you?
I did.
And we took off 5 out of the second page.
And we crossed these out because,
The committee basically felt they weren't applicable to this district and what we're doing.
okay.
There were a lot of things we were already doing.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of the people that are doing them, turning in documentation to a central place. And Sue Bevins, our food service director, volunteered to chair the committee and be that person. Then this next section, we didn't take in the first place, on page 3. Well, let's see, no. We did end up taking the second item on page 3, relating to the standards and benchmarks for nutrition education shall be provided by highly qualified teachers. We do that. Page 4, we didn't take originally, page 5 or page 6. And then until we get to the bottom, and under physical activity, previously we had physical activity shall not be employed as a form of discipline or punishment. And the option that Neil would present at this time was to choose between shall and should, and the committee selected should. On page 7, we crossed off the first item. We took the second. Schools shall encourage families to provide physical activity outside the regular school day, such as outdoor play at home, participation in sports sponsored by community agencies or organizations, and in lifelong physical activities like bowling, swimming, and tennis. We crossed off the rest of that page and the following page. And page 9, those were items we hadn't taken before, or they were items that we didn't really have. We didn't take them before. And then on the bottom of page 10, this was the new language, and we are currently doing those 3 items on the bottom of the page. So we took them all, as well as the next page, with the exception of designated wellness champions at each school. We did not take that one, or the very last one, which still left us many items there that we are doing to encourage healthy diet. Next page we did not take. Page 13. We took it all, but the third from the bottom and the very last item. And page 14 we didn't take. Page 15. We took the first 3 items on that page, and then the new language that is on the bottom. And the next page of new language, where the middle of the page there, where there were 3 items to choose from, we took the first 2. Distribute information at the beginning of the school year to families of school children and include information in the student handbook with regard to our wellness policy. So that's kind of a quick overview. Where you had a chance to read it in more detail.
So it turns into a smaller policy than really got to see feasible.
It's probably not all that different in length than what we had before, because we took out some language, but we added in new language, so. And some of it we had taken in the first place. So if you're comfortable with this serving as our second reading and are ready to act on the fall meal updates, entertain a motion for that.
I got a question on page 7. Item number 3, all students in grades
Of
K
the
through-
wellness policy,
Yeah.
page 7.
Third one down.
Third one down. We did not take that one.
Any reasons behind it?
We didn't take it originally.
We do it down though, right? Have recess?
We do have a daily recess. We don't want to lock ourselves into the exact number of minutes here. We just didn't take it originally, so we didn't really go over it right away. A lot of detail.
So here it says recess shall not be used, so we didn't take it, but on the other place we switched it to should.
Well, we didn't take it at all.
No, right, I understand that. So on the other place though, it was switched to should.
That's physical activity. Should.
Physical activity,
Right.
right? And the reasoning for that change was?
Just the totality of the shall.
I guess I think it's important for consent physical activity. I think it's important to say this moment of being outside, or whatever that means, is important. I don't have a problem with locking in minutes for that. I don't.
Okay. But the other one that you're talking about, the physical activity should not be employed as a form of discipline or punishment. That's what you're referring to, the one part, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's different from this saying we're gonna get
Mhm.
recess.
Right.
So why
Some sort
wouldn't
of
we?
physical activity per day, right? You have to look at this.
No, the one talks about not using it as punishment, and the one that wasn't taken, so we don't wanna lock
Well-
ourselves into how many minutes, but why
Why-
can't we say they shall be provided with a daily recess period?
Exactly.
That
Period, and recess shall not be used as a reward or punishment,
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was going to suggest, that we could take it and then maybe not lock ourselves into the minutes precisely, because that kind of depends on when we work up the calendar every year, just where we could be off a minute here. And be in violation, but if we ended it prior to the minutes, I don't think we have a problem with that.
And grades K through what?
K through 4.
So they go outside at lunchtime?
Is that the middle school goes out at
Middle school
lunch?
goes out at lunch, right? That's the, recess period, if you will? Okay.
Why are you calling that recess? K through 8 then? No, I guess.
But if they're only using their recess period at lunch, and it says in here daily recess period, does that mean it's gotta be incorporated in there?
No, because it's saying a daily recess period, so whenever that is during the day. That's how I'm looking at it.
So all students in grades K through 8 shall be provided with a daily recess period.
And then recess shall not be used as a reward or punishment period.
Sure.
Should not.
Wasn't a choice.
Yep, sorry, should not.
Oh, you want to change to should?
Yeah.
Well, that was your choice, so I'm not saying.
No, but
either
if
way.
we're saying it before, it,
I'm just-
right, it should be should this time too, you're right.
But I understand why that language is probably changed. I personally like shall rather than should, but you know, that's not what it should
That's two different meanings. Shall means you have to do it, you don't get a choice.
Are we good with should, everyone?
Yes.
And we're good K-8? Everyone?
I just need some clarification. Shall not be used as reward or punishment. So I'm just curious, because I know it's different in different buildings, but I know sometimes when kids get into trouble, they do miss, one of their consequences is missing recess. Do you guys, what that means? So they're not allowed to do that anymore. Is that,
With the word shall, yes, with the word should, it's up to discretion.
is that, okay, I'm just, I guess the clarification is because as a teacher, what kind of, sometimes that was the consequence of some of the teachers at our building used. I'm just wondering, is that something that the elementary uses or no? Would that be a problem?
If we weren't allowed to do it?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
See what I'm saying, like if someone.
That's why if you say should,
Do we
You-
need that second line in there? Could we just say all
No.
students in grades K through 8 shall be provided with a daily recess period?
no. Yes, but saying recess should not be used as a reward or punishment covers that.
So
If you
should.
say shall,
Then
shall
that-
not, that
So
means they
should
can't
cover,
do it
so we
that
could
way.
still use that.
Correct. When you
Okay.
say
Just making
should,
sure.
should is suggesting in my mind, but that shouldn't, but shall means we don't want you to do it that way.
So if we just leave it out like we have in the past, we won't have that issue of changing the wording. They can continue on as they're doing now,
Because as a parent, if I'm looking at this.
Right.
And I go, back
It'll be
into-
argument.
It'll be an argument.
Yeah.
It will be, I'll say, well,
That's why I'd rather just leave it out, like it has been.
Well, but there's a statement later on about physical activities should and shall, and
But
that
that
is.
doesn't say nothing about recess, that can be anything.
Right, but what are the physical activities?
Push up?
Yeah. Drop them.
That's what that makes me
Right.
think of.
That's
In
what I
a
was-
gym class, drop and give me 50.
I think it's just a general statement of physical activities.
No, it's all right.
I agree. Physical activity can wash the chocolate or physical.
And that's-
Exactly. I prefer us to continue to leave it out as we have.
I agree with Rob.
no statement about recess whatsoever. We don't have to provide it. Is that necessary?
I agree with the first part, but the second part can just recess shall use reward or punishment.
I think it's so ingrained here that whether we have it in or out. I mean, as far as, as far as the first sentence part of it.
And we had
Somewhere else.
recess even out.
And I think that's why we didn't take it, because it got so complicated.
If you can just,
So what would the board like to do with respect to that little paragraph? Who would like it to just not be part of the policy? That's 4. Okay, so we won't have that at all. Okay, now, anybody else have anything?
Not to drag this on any longer, but wasn't there, and I don't have the note from the last meeting, but in regards to the compliance officer, and there's some concerns to that we're gonna get looked at. Tracy, give me this.
There was discussion about it being.
Oh,
As it being Linda, and that she is the compliance officer and the
Oh, I was gonna ask.
and the enforcer.
enforcer, if that was
Yep, that's right.
part of the process. I can't find it in my notifications, but I just remember that. And I don't mean to drag this out any longer, but
Not dragging it out, it's being official.
Well, I would be the compliance officer, and Anthony would be the male compliance officer. But then we would also have our designee, so it would.
here's, page 14 of 21 and the 5517. Yeah, remember what I'm told. Yeah.
Well, wasn't the conversation, we were talking about what we were comfortable with
Right.
as a board in that policy of the superintendent being the compliance officer as well as the person that,
Yeah, down at the second to last paragraph, there was some discussion. I don't know. I just wrote on hold, we were gonna check that box for the principal, not conducting investigation.
I had that crossed out.
I
Right,
had
then we
2
put on
question
hold.
marks and said, my wrote, we need a closer look. That's
Right,
what I wrote.
Right.
Because the X and then I have a line across through it.
Yeah, that's how I have it too. Leave it unchecked, right, before we talk.
Yeah,
Remember looking at that?
I think that's fine, and then once we know what the complaint is, then it may or may not have it principal.
So is it a check or not a check?
I don't think it's necessary.
No check?
No check.
You know, hope to do it.
I just thought that another concern being just making sure that someone who has a story to tell under the topic of harassment has enough people to verify. If it's not, you're not going the same person for every level. That's what I thought it sounded like to me.
Well,
Is
you
that
could-
if there's a complaint,
I
it's
could
gonna
still
come.
have a designee in the building.
Okay. There's a person within the building that they can go to. And then that person will make the decision as to whether it goes on. That's how that works.
that it could work that way, depends on what it is, and who brings it up quite often.
Okay. As long as we feel as though this policy allows for people to be heard,
To be heard.
and that the investigation is going to happen if it is deemed necessary in a really great way, so that that can be investigated, then okay. If it doesn't feel as though it makes the person who has, the issue has to go through lots of extra hoops and all those kinds of things, that's all I'm saying. So I just want to make sure that someone's complaint in that area is heard and handled appropriately.
And I think then by saying if there's designees in the building, that should cover that.
And that are initially filed within a school building administrator. On receipt of the complainant directly to the school building administrator, the compliance officer will begin either an informal or formal process depending on the request of the person on which it is harassment. I think it's fine. If we find that it's not working the way that it is, we can always change it. And typically, you have one officer in a district, and now they're having two. A male and a female. And the complaints get worked through at the building level and then at the district level, or depending on the seriousness of the issue, it might come right directly to central office.
Okay. So then, if there are no other questions or comments, are we, someone willing to make a motion to accept?
I move the approval of the Neola Board Policy 0144.3-9160 additions and revisions as so noted from the discussion and to be attached.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. Okay, next. Public comments again. This is something new that we're trying. If there's anyone out in the audience who would like to come up and address the board toward the end of our meeting, you are welcome to do so. No, you can come up to the podium.
I'm asking a silly recess question.
And you're a second grade teacher. I have a question. I don't know why, no one knows why people make other rules for policies, like some of it's around things that they have to make a policy about recess. But my question is, was the reason for putting recess in a policy because maybe there's some schools that are doing away with recess, is why they wanted to put it into one so that was kept in? Because my question is, if we don't have anything in there, does that leave the door open down the road for administrators to say, well, we're not doing it anymore. We're not allowed to do it anymore. So then I would, me as an advocate for exercising that recess, in case we need to get outside and move, I would have a problem with someone telling me that I couldn't do that no longer. So I'm wondering if that is the reason probably why the policy was made, because maybe there were schools that were doing away with recess, because I've seen schools that are doing that.
I didn't have any discussion with
Right,
Cal
but
on
I'm
it.
just
I
thinking,
think,
that's not happening, and I'm worried that.
I don't think that focus was on whether or not you have recess. The
Right.
focus is on how many minutes and
How long is going up for?
and the shooter should be used as a reward or punishment. I think that's what we focused on when we didn't take it originally.
That's just my question.
We have not had any discussion about eliminating recess.
Okay, very good. Very good, they need that. Great.
Thank you, Mrs. Stern.
You're welcome, Mrs.
Anybody else? Okay, next, agenda items to be included at next meeting. Linda gave us a couple. Annual summer tax resolution. Is that for December, Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
And, well, we have the resolution on with the bond sale, the ratification resolution.
Okay. And then, January is our organizational month. We have to have an organizational meeting, and so I guess if everyone could kind of look at their calendar, since we're gonna be coming into the holidays and all of that kind of stuff. We discovered last year we don't have to do it,
We don't have to do it any particular time, but we would need to do it before we could conduct any
Any
business.
business.
So if something came up and we had to have a special meeting, we would just have to do the organization piece.
Okay. So, maybe looking at the week of the 6th of January or the 13th, do it the 13th, hoping that nothing comes up before the 13th. Is everybody at the 13th of January open? Tracy?
I think it's okay.
That should be okay for me too, with Jen's due dates around there.
Oh, dear, okay.
Pretty much any time around there, so.
Okay. Well, then let's mark January 13th at 6 o'clock then. 6 o'clock, good, 6:30?
6:30.
6:30 is better for you, right? Okay, 6:30. That'll be our organizational meeting. Then we also, when we had our workshop in October, we talked to the board that we wanted to pick a date in December to meet with Linda regarding her goals and our goals. Our regular board meeting is the 16th, and we want to do it a date other than our regular board meeting date. What does the week of December 9th look like?
We have a budget meeting
On the 9th? Any other dates that week? What does Wednesday the 11th look like?
I'm not available for after 8.
Yeah, I'm busy that day.
Okay, how about the 10th, Tuesday the 10th?
I'm not back in town until 5:15.
Okay, Thursday the 12th?
I'm not in town until 9:30.
Okay, the week of December 2nd? Monday the 2nd?
I'm not available.
I can teach a conference.
Tuesday the 3rd? Wednesday the 4th? Well, we have to do in December, so let's try to figure out, I just thrown out a bunch of
What about
dates, somebody throw out
Friday
some
the
dates
6th,
to
Friday the
me.
6th, we're doing a few of us are doing a walkthrough at the school.
You're doing walkthroughs at the school?
In the morning,
In the morning.
in the middle, 3 of us.
No, I can't do, I can't during the day.
But, we mean that night?
That's the,
Thursday the 5th. No, Tracy's not available tonight. Right? Is that what you said, Tracy?
I can do Monday or Tuesday, I just can't do Wednesday or Thursday. Is the second or third, as you said, the second or third? There's a year on.
Monday the ninth, the second, I'm not available on the third, I just work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I'm not back in town. The 9th of December, right, we're not in December, right? Are other people not available?
Well, we have budget and finance at 6:30. I mean, we could do it at 8 o'clock.
I won't go, I won't be available.
Okay. Well, no, we're not doing it the 16th. That's our board meeting. We're doing it on a different night because that's what we said at the workshop. So, and we said we're doing it in December, so let's try to find something. Okay. How about if we come up with something real?
Wednesday's work is.
Wednesday the
if I'm
11th?
Out the door at 6:15.
Say it again,
or
Tracy.
Don't start until 8 on Wednesday. Right now, the 18th is available in that kind of time frame on a Wednesday evening. The 11th, it would probably have to be 8-ish.
I'm not hearing anybody else say anything, so,
11's fine for me.
Fine for me.
I need 7 fines. Not 4, not 3, not,
Are we
I need
talking about 8
7.
o'clock?
The 11th at 8 o'clock?
11 to 8 o'clock, is it the time? Okay.
11th is fine.
And we'll do it in, Dr. Olson's conference room. Okay. Budget and finance is the 9th at 6:30. And facilities, there isn't gonna be a meeting scheduled until we know what Linda and Joan have
Right.
done, correct? Okay.
If the marketing committee is going to roll out a January advisory team, advisory, whatever we're calling those, we probably need to meet at some point before those start, so we want to meet the beginning of January,
Sure.
or the,
Sure. You know what, Tracy? At the organizational meeting, the committees could change. So, if everyone sends to me, if they want to be, stay on the same committees, if they want to be different, and then maybe on the 6th, at the organizational meeting, we could set a marketing meeting from there, Tracy? Does that work?
we probably won't have a rollout in January, though.
Anything else? And then I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.